Hello, friends. I'm Jem Fadling, and you're listening to the Unhurried Living podcast, where we inspire you to rest deeper, live fuller, and lead better. When it comes to crafting a rhythm of life, Ruth Haley Barton, in her book Sacred Rhythms, inquires, how do I want to live so I can be who I want to be? Tucked within this question is the assumption that choices need to be made. I will have to say yes to some things and no to others. This leads us into the idea of accepting our limitations. In one of my recent coaching groups, we spent time learning how to craft a rhythm of life. Margaret Guenther, the author of Holy Listening, likened a rhythm of life to a trellis. A trellis is generally planted alongside a vine-like plant so that, as the branches grow, they might attach on their way up the fence or the wall. Without a trellis, a vine would just be a gnarled group of stems curled up on the ground. And when it comes to crafting a rhythm of life, Ruth Haley Barton, again in her book, inquires, how do I want to live so I can be who I want to be? And tucked within this question is the assumption that choices will need to be made. I will have to say yes to some things and no to others. Now, in our group's discussion, the idea of limitations arose. Typically, we think of limitations as something bad. Limitations hold us back or press us down. I don't like thinking of myself as limited. However, as we mature, we realize confines and boundaries are necessary gifts. I wake up to the fact that I cannot do everything or be everything to everyone in my life. Limitations can be a doorway to more discerned decisions. Yes, I can do this. No, I cannot do that. In her book, The Fruits of the Spirit, Evelyn Underhill says, a good gardener always has an idea of what he is trying to grow. Without vision, even a cabbage patch will perish. And so we are invited to make choices about how we live, which includes what we do and do not do. So let's run with Evelyn's idea for a bit. If you decide to plant a garden in your backyard, you wouldn't simply begin to dig random holes throughout the space. If you didn't have a landscape architect, you would do some research and you would find out what grows in your region, what tools you need, and what kind of sunlight and water might be required. All of these would become the limits within which you discern what to plant and how to care for it. And let's move into the arts. If you're a painter, you place limits on yourself by choosing what medium to paint on. You choose the colors and the type of paint. You also decide how big your canvas is. If you're a sculptor, you decide whether to use granite or marble. You also decide the size of your work of art, and this dictates how large of a slab with which to begin. These are all limits, and within these limits, creativity can flourish. Many of us have plans for daily time with God, and of course, this is good for our souls. I'd also like you to ponder for a moment if there are ways to expand on this and to build into your life weekly, monthly, quarterly, and even yearly practices. What kind of person do you want to be? What would it take to become such a person? Certainly, this cannot be left to chance, nor can the questions be ignored because I don't have enough time for that. Well, if you just became overwhelmed by considering daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly practices, let's roll it back for just a moment. You don't begin by tackling all of that at once. Here is a very simple way to start down the path of a refreshed rhythm of life. I highly recommend you begin with practices and activities you enjoy. Remember, we are creating a trellis on which our life plant can grow. This is an organic process and can be entered into with grace. Ask yourself a few questions and give time to come up with a nice little list of maybe 10 to 15 items. What feels life-giving to me? What brings me joy? What causes me to feel refreshed? What enables me to rest? And once you've made your list, circle your top 2 and have the fun of calling these 2 holy yeses. And then you can just take these 2 and calendar them, and then guard these dates like a doctor's appointment. When you get to that day, engage with joy the practice that you know you love. Now, I hope you'll agree that this is a fairly simple process. A rhythm of life would continue to build on this idea. You begin with practices that bring life, like listening to worship music, scripture reading, walks in nature, gardening, good reading, sitting in silence, dancing to loud music. You come up with your own list. Life-giving practices are gifts from God, and I believe they are planted deep within you as desires and then invitations to enjoy God's presence in all its various forms. A rhythm of life is a way of setting limits and making plans so that you become who you were meant to be. It doesn't have to be overwhelming, and if you are in any form of anxiety, tiredness, or exhaustion, what are you waiting for? Now, building and engaging a rhythm of life is a big part of our PACE cohort training, and I wanted to tell you about that right now. You can go to unhurriedliving.com/PACE to learn more and consider joining a future cohort. When it comes to your rhythm of life, engage that which brings you life and connect with God within that. It is good and right to care for your own soul, even as you seek to care for others. I pray that you will be inspired like a gardener, an artist, or a sculptor to create beauty in the form of your own cultivated life with God. So let's reflect together for just a moment. Return to the invitations I posed earlier. What feels life-giving to you? What brings you joy? What gives you rest? Remember, make a list, circle your top 2, call them holy yeses, take them and calendar them, and then guard them like a very important appointment, and then engage with joy on the day. Thank you so much for joining me on the Unhurried Living podcast. You'll find many helpful links in the show notes so you can get to know us better, as well as our partner, Life Audio, and all of their other faith-centered podcasts. Remember, you're making your way forward one small, simple, and gracious step at a time.